Good morning and welcome to the early morning rant from me. I wasn't going to do too many of these anymore, but because of recent activities in the news, I was brought to the thought that this was something very important that I really wanted to do. Um, and well, as you all know, as of January 1st. California supposedly became another legal marijuana state for recreational marijuana as well as medical use. And I use the word supposedly for a big reason. And as you know, this is now what has recently happened. It's something I've been waiting for. I literally have been waiting for this. Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General of the United States, has stated that he is rescinding some Obama-era regulations or whatever to kind of look the other way, and he's going to pursue enforcing the law. And now, if anybody has ever watched any of the hearings regarding, to accept these guys on the cabinet and his AG and whatever, realize that Jeff Sessions said plain and clearly, he said this. He said he was going to enforce the law. And he's going to leave it up to the Congress to write and pass the laws. The president will sign them, but he will enforce the law. And if you go say, if you don't want it, if you want it changed, then change the law or rescind the law. And what I'm getting at is, and I'm sure he's going to use this most definitely in his major defense or his prosecution of it all. Under the U.S. Constitution, now, first of all, let's start right here. If you're one of those people that think the Constitution is a living document, then please comment on how and when it needs to be fed. What does it eat? Who takes it for a walk and to the restroom? Okay, if you have any kind of brain at all, you will realize that the Constitution is a legal document, and it's only about 6 or 7 pages long. Right now, I can't remember how many articles are in it. I think there's only like 9. And plus the Bill of Rights, which was the first 10. Actually, there were 13 amendments proposed in that group, and only 10 were initially passed in that first, what we call the Bill of Rights. Now, the thing is in that, what is it, Article 3 or something like that, is what's called the Supreme Law Clause. It gives Congress and the federal government the right to make treaties, and only the federal government to make treaties with foreign nations and whatnot, and conduct certain business, and also that when it passes a law, that if a state law is in conflict with that, the federal law supersedes that law. Now, there's an organization out there called the 10th Amendment. I'm a member of a bunch of these little groups, Jefferson, 10th Amendment, and George Washington, and a couple that talk about the Constitution, talk about the Founding Fathers, and talk about our government. And there's a lot of things in the Constitution that can change some of that. One of it is amendments. Another is nullify. Now, I don't know how nullify works and how it's proceeded and how you legally process nullify. But what Sessions will do is he's going to use the Controlled Substance Act, which scheduled marijuana as a Schedule I drug, which means that it has no medical benefit and nothing redeeming about it, and so it is just flat outlaw. And my understanding is that you couldn't do any research on it because there's no use for it. There's things like LSD and peyote and whatever on that thing, and I believe heroin might be on there, but heroin's an opiate, so it might be a Schedule 2 with morphine and some of the other hardcore and cocaine and things like that, because cocaine has a medical use, and opiates have medical uses, even though it's probably the scourge of life. Good morning, Julie. I'm glad you're watching. Got my first and only viewer right now. So, anyways, Sessions is going to use Controlled Substance Act, which makes marijuana a Schedule 1 drug, which means that the states are in conflict now with federal law. So basically, by voting to legalize marijuana, they're wrong. Now and it's not legal. It's null and void. Now the thing is let me explain something to you. I'm a big supporter of legalized pot. You know, if you want to go out and get stoned, fucking go for it, man. You know, do your thing. I myself, I do not partake in strong or spirited drink or any other drugs recreationally. I only use whatever the doctor has prescribed for me, and some over-the-counter stuff like Tylenol. So, big thing here is that's what Sessions is going to do, and he's going to go after I don't think he's going to go after smokers and possession as much as you think, or would think. I think he's going to go after the retailers and the producers, because for one of the neat things about it is marijuana will be produced in California is one of the big states that grows pot, so we're going to grow pot for ourselves, and then it's going to be distributed. Now, how all that works, I really would have loved to have gotten involved with that, because I got some great ideas, and I got some things I would have liked to have done as far as taxation. I think personally you should be allowed to grow so many plants yourself for your own use, medically or recreationally. You can't sell them because you need a license for that. But I guess you could, if you grew enough, you could sell them to pharmaceutical groups or have some state ran means of turning over your harvest and saying, here, you know, this is Class A medical weed, so, you know, do what you want with it, you know, make your CBC oils and all of that stuff and go for it. First of all, let's also remember that smoking pot isn't probably really good for you, because anything that you light on fire and suck into your lungs isn't really healthy. But, you know, it's not nicotine. Yeah, but it has a really, really hot resin, and there is a tar base to that. There's nicotine, but there is all this tar and crap that's going to go into your lungs. So that's where I'm at on this, and that's what I'm trying to educate people. Because what I would like to see people do, and what I'd like to organize people to do, and what get a message across. See, I'm on a lot of weird things. I'm on that like Tokers and Smokers or whatever group in Facebook, because they put up some funny stuff, and I'm interested in what's going on in that culture, and you know, it's kind of trippy. It's kind of fun what goes on. You know, if you saw some of the groups I'm involved with, you'd probably question my mental health, because, you know, I'm hooked up with some Futurama groups. Those people, I don't think they really get the real joke of Futurama. But anyways, what I'm trying to do, and what's funny is when I talk to them people and I post these to these people, and what I read in the comment sections are a bunch of whiny, crying, you know, name calling, people that, you know, and then are attacking Jeff Sessions and the Attorney General. And to be honest with you, quite frankly, people, I think the man's doing you a favor. You might say all this shit. He may have some archaic values regarding and opinions regarding marijuana, but he's doing you a favor, because if you do and get behind what I'm saying, and you get a hold of okay, I'm from California. I'm from crazy California. So you get a hold of this new one, Pamela Harris. our state senator, and then write and email Diane Frankenstein, and get her, tell her what you want, that you want this all removed from the Controlled Substance Act. You want either it rescheduled or you want it removed completely from the Controlled Substance Act. And that way, the government's out of it. You know, the federal is out of it. The states can do what they want. Leave it up to the states to vote who you want. And what I'm recommending to you is while you're sitting around in your circle and you're passing the dote to the left side, man, talk about it, tell your friends, and then like maybe one of you sit down and write a letter. You don't have to handwrite it. You can do it by computer, and you can print it out. And print out copies, a lot of copies. And you guys can sit down and even a little like committee setting while you're getting stoned and compose this letter of what you want. And then give it to all your friends and make a bunch of where they can give it to their friends, and you all sign it. And then but take one copy, and all of you sign that one copy, you know, and try to get as many signatures as you can on that copy, and then mail them to and copy it, photocopy it, and mail it to your state representative. Your, you know, for me it's Lou Carrera, I think it is, and then your two senators, and tell them, dude, this is what we want, and remind them in your wording and whatever. Remind them of one fact: they work for you. Okay. They are representatives. They are not leaders. They are not spiritual advisors. They're not as smart as they really think they are. You run the show. This is what you want. Good morning, Mark. And Mark Hughes just joined us, so if you've missed a bit, maybe you want to go back after I post this and watch it. But get on there and tell these people what you want. And that way, they're out of the federal government's out of it. The states can choose whatever or who, you know, to legalize it or not. Now, one thing you should know under the Constitution, maybe you should read that as well and learn what that thing is. It's under the Interstate Commerce and Transportation Clause or something like that. If we grow weed in California, we got, you know, licensed providers or licensed providers or agriculturalists or farmers or whatever, and they grow the weed for California. The feds are out of the game. The state can tax it at one or two sources, and they can drive it from wherever they're growing it from on any city street, county road, and even an interstate from one border to the next, north and south, east and west. As long as it doesn't cross the border, it stays in the realm of the state of California. But if, for instance, right, in agriculture, I'll use these metaphors. In agriculture, we grow walnuts here in California. Actually, we grow raisins. There's a better one because California, Southern California or Central California is the raisin capital of the world. And we grow enough raisins to far exceed the need for our raisin consumption here in California. So what does this farmer who's trying to survive and make money and make a living do? He exports it. He exports it to Nevada, to Utah, to Washington, D.C., to Mexico, to Canada, to Europe, to Asia, whatever. You know, there's raisins are sold to a producer, they're packaged, and they're transported out. So then, as a result of that, the federal government now can tax and touch and regulate the commerce of that product across state lines. Of course, you're going to have issues with the fact that, let's say, Utah legalizes weed, but they don't really have the capacity or the ability to really grow high quality or a lot of weed. And but Nevada has outlawed it. Now, the feds are going to have to come up with the regulations or whatever about being transported across through Nevada into Utah. Okay, so but that's the thing, and there right there is a booming business. Now, personally, I feel that large farm communities should be kept out of marijuana production. I'd like to see it go outdoors, but I'd like to see um, the big farmer up in the Delta and whatnot out of marijuana production, at least recreational marijuana, or medical marijuana. If the federal government, who they have agricultural research farms in the southeast, wish to develop and pursue a form of cannabis that has little or no ability to like get you high, but has a high fiber content and has a higher oil content that rather than or in it than what would get you high. It can be used in lotions and other forms of commercial products, and yet but have a high fiber content to produce fabric and rope and whatever. The hemp is ancient. Hemp has been used for hundreds of years. In this country alone, the federal government subsidized the growth of hemp during the First World War. And matter of fact, that's why there's a joke about in Iowa and Kansas and places like that, you have what's called pitchweed, and it's just cannabis that's like been growing wild or whatever there since those days. And I don't know if they've got it all cleared out yet, but it's a pretty pervasive plant. It's weed, but it has a monetary value and it has a commercial value other than getting you high. You can make paper and whatever, and many products on it. There's a product out there that I've been reading about called hempcrete, where they use fibrous parts of the marijuana or the cannabis plant or the hemp plant and mixing it with concrete or a form of concrete and using it to build in the fibers and whatever, make it stronger and better and cheaper. It makes it cheaper to grow. There's a lot of that going on, but the thing is it's not legal anywhere in the world, as far as I know. Anywhere in the world. They say it's legal in Colorado and in Washington or Oregon or whatever, and now in California. But I disagree because of the Controlled Substance Act, and that is what Jeff Sessions is doing to you. That's what and why I'm suggesting all of this. Why I'm suggesting you get off your ass and you do something about it, and you use the Constitution and you use your freedom of speech and you use your rights to nail it down. Now, if as far as I'm concerned, if Kamala Harris doesn't want to change, and Diane Frankenstein also needs to go, period. And my guy Lou Carrera doesn't want to, agree with you or isn't willing to even contact you back and say, hey, I'm looking into this. Then you know what? He needs to go. They all need to go. You understand they work for you. Now I understand Lou Carrera, like for one, he's in the House of Representatives, so he's really got to hustle, kiss ass, because he's always up for re-election every 2 years. Okay, you got it. His seat barely gets warm before he's got to fight for his job again. And I'll tell you what, people, we need this guy to fight for his job. And if he isn't willing to do and represent us, he doesn't lead us, he represents you and I, then screw him. He can go on unemployment. Okay? He's out. He's gone. All right? He can become a lobbyist and even corrupt the system even more if he wants. But I'm telling you, the Jeff Sessions, despite what you think about him, despite his own personal values and his own personal opinions, is, in my opinion, doing you a favor, because it's forcing this issue, and what it's going to do is it's going to change this country. Especially if you follow my recommendations. Like I said, getting high with your buddies and whatever in the circle or whatever. If you've seen this, sit down and talk to it. If you know people that are on medical marijuana or on recreational weed, and show them this video, talk to them, explain to them what's going on, help us all get these people to understand. I'm tired of seeing, and I've I'm only posting on some of these sites that argue about it for the simple reason that to educate and to help and to get them to think about doing it. But all they want to do is whine. All they want to do is complain. Oh, Adam, whatever. I had one guy even tell me that, hey, since the Civil War, states' rights have been gone. And I'd like to get back to him and tell him, well, I'm sorry that he lost his right to own a human being and have them work for him for free. But, it's the Civil War was about states' rights, by the way. And it was the states' right to maintain the institution of slavery and take the institution of slavery into new territories or into new states without a hassle. And at that point, the U.S. Congress, half of it at least, the abolitionist half, was fighting to say no. And then the South was going, well, they should be able to choose. They said, no. Let's try to tighten it up. Let's try to work this out. I read a paper a long time ago, and it seemed to indicate or state that even in 1700s, in the 1740s and 1750s, slavery in that form, at least in North America and whatever, was starting to find its way out. There were many Christian abolitionists in England and in the United States and in some parts of Europe that were fighting and standing up against it. So, basically, there's your state right. The state rights thing still exists. You have to make it happen. You have to tell your representatives that's what you want. And then when they say, okay, and they get that changed in the Controlled Substance Act, and you go to your state people and you contact them and you start working on writing and petitioning a bill to legalize marijuana. And let's try to, that's one reason why I wish I could have been on it. I would have liked to been involved in writing the tax codes and the regulations and the parameters of the law. Because I think our elected representatives sometimes just do a slipshod job of it. I mean, a good example would be, which I voted for, allowing Indian casinos in the state of California. And everyone said, yeah, why not? Why not? Shouldn't they be able to find a way of supporting themselves? And if that's a way to support themselves and raise the quality of life and improve conditions on the reservations and whatnot, then yeah, sure, go for it. But then a few years later, 2 or 4 years later, people in the state of California, in our assembly and in our state senate, started to, and even in counties, started to say, well, we need a regulation about taxing this and improve taxes. Well, you know what? My answer to that was, screw you. You had a chance to write and put that all together in that one bill and proposition, and you yanked yourself off. You just screwed it. And that was it. You said, yeah, it's legal. We'll tax the shit out of them later. No. I think we need to really look at and examine the fact of doing stuff like that and then going back and raping the recipient, which I think some of those propositions came forward and were defeated in California. So there you go. There's my point. My point entirely. And if you need help or you need to understand, go ahead and contact me. For one, you can go on online and you can find you probably know your state senators because there's only 2 of them, but you may not know your congressman or your representative in the House of Representatives. And you can find that by your zip code and various other reasons. There's means of locating them on the internet. And on all of their pages are addresses to their offices in their home state, addresses to their offices in Washington, D.C. their email address. Now, you might have to jump some hoops on the email address, but I'm telling you what, it's worked before, because the FCC has responded to letters to take care of things on television, whatever. And when you look back at and take it apart, you find out there's only like 8 people that are the ones doing all of this, and they write tons of letters, and they write emails, and they get email accounts, and they attack and they attack and they attack, and they bombard them with sacks and sacks of stuff. And well, that's what I'm telling you to do. And I'm also telling you, do this as a group. Let us have millions of you send these letters, send these emails, bomb them, blow up their servers, man, with emails. You know, have the U.S. Postal Service put on extra people to move the sacks of freaking mail into the offices of those representatives and those senators. You know, nothing personal, but, you know, it's almost like you want to break their backs carrying that stuff, but, you know, we don't want anybody to get hurt, right? What we do want, though, is the aides and the assistants and whatever in those offices to be consumed by mail, to be consumed by this. And when they start stacking up what it's about and saying, well, hell, I got 6 million letters here from, or was it 40 million letters here from Southern California alone, or Orange County alone, that says, you know, take it off of Schedule 1. So I guess maybe this is a minor civics lesson. It's something that I've been waiting for, and it's been something I've wanted to say and do. So to any and all who watch this or see any of it, and actually watch the whole thing, please make some comments. Please tell me what you think. Please tell me your opinion on it, or if you want to join the revolution. You know, this is exactly one of the things that Thomas Jefferson preached. This is an act of rebellion, and this is an act of revolution. And you know, we really need to look at some of this. You know, this subject is a lot bigger and a lot more intense, especially in legal issues and regulations and whatnot. You know, because a guy can lose his job for being on medical marijuana if he's in a situation where he has to test. And there are many jobs out there where people have to test regularly. And the sad part is it doesn't mean they're stoned, because, you know, you can smoke a joint when you get home for your back pain or for whatever, and that's fine. But the problem is things last in your body. You know, it takes 24 hours or 48 hours for you to get rid of 10 milligrams of Valium, for instance. And it takes 72 hours or something like that to process cocaine out of your body. I forget how much total. But weed, marijuana tends to linger. A lot of it settles in the fat cells. And so you can test positive, you know, and if they tested my hair, I could probably end up going to a drug clinic to have it harvested and processed, or a lab to have it harvested and processed. I'm going to be flat out honest with you. I haven't drank in over 20 years, and I haven't smoked pot or taken drug in over 30. I judge those by my son's birthday, and I know exactly when I decided I just can't drink anymore. It's just not it's not good for me. And I can tell you that I haven't missed it, but for some weird reason, because I used to kind of grow a little myself. I'd like to grow a little medical marijuana for people. I do know what it does for people with cancer, especially in chemotherapy as an anti-nausea drug. I don't know how they got all the research and all the claims they're making about weed today, because my understanding was, as a Schedule One substance, there was no legal reason or legal means to test it or research it. Just because it's not worth anything, so it's against the law to kind of even do research on it. So, but apparently there's a lot. Now I have seen videos, whether they're staged or not, I don't know. But I've seen videos of what it does with somebody with Alzheimer's and the violent shakes and whatnot. And I know of, from what I've seen it on television, I've seen it online, what it has done for epilepsy. And some kid, I was a child, they had on this television show that he apparently has seizures, was having, I'm going to say 10 to 30 a day or more. A day, people. It was extremely high what it was for a day. And they finally got him, this guy that, like, he talked about the flowers, the buds and whatever. And he makes the CBC oils. And there were two types, and one kind of got you high. But they gave these to the child once a day, one of them once a day and the other one twice a day with meals and whatever. And it reduced his seizures, his epileptic seizures, which these grand mals were so bad that they could have killed him. And it got him down to 1, 2, maybe 3 a month at that point. And they said it had been coming down and down and down, and at that point they were and they weren't as bad and they weren't as violent and probably as dangerous. So I believe there's definitely some effects to it. I know from the commercial side, there's a lot to be done with weed, but from the medical side, I think there's a lot to be done. When they made medical marijuana legal here in California, it spawned what I called, and many of us called, pop docs, who you went to your regular doctor and got your blood pressure pills or whatever, got your physical, and everything was good, and they fixed that wart on your hand or whatever, and then you went to another doctor because you wanted a prescription for marijuana. Says, well, I do get headaches, everybody gets headaches, but I get headaches, So, or I stub my toe, or my back kind of bothers me sometimes. I'm getting older. Oh yeah, let me write you a script for weed. And then you never go back to the guy, and you got your marijuana card and your script, and you're a happy little camper because you're getting high. Well, I always thought, and I don't know how legal this is or how we can set it up to remain anonymous, but doctors are scientists. So doctors that are prescribing weed or have a patient on weed, you're like my regular doctor said, hey, I got a script for weed. So, okay, let him know that this is a medication you're on now. Medication. And and they can chart that. That would be something they would put in their charts, and they could notice things, and they could document different effects and side effects and changes in you personally and in your health from using this. And that's what's important. I think that's documents, scientific research and documentation that should be somehow anonymously collected and put into a main research program where doctors and scientists or whatever evaluate all that data and learn more and more and more about what it's doing to the human body, in that way, rather than, and plus what it's doing physically to you through other forms of research. To me, it's just amazing. I mean, if you're on medical marijuana for cancer and whatever, that's another thing that it should be noted, and how you're reacting, your weight gain or your weight loss or whatever. For chemo, they actually have anti-nausea drugs that are injected. They're so strong and so powerful, they're injected into your bloodstream, and they barely work. But for some reason, they say that the the effects of marijuana on that seem to you don't seem to be as nauseous. Well, I wonder if that, I've seen people that did it. I've had friends or family that went through chemo and whatever, and I've seen some of them use that, and I've seen some difference and whatever. But one thing that came to my mind, it didn't seem like it really got rid of the nausea, and they remained nauseous during the whole treatment. But it seemed like, and we used to kind of joke about it because, weed gives you the munchies. You smoke a joint and you want to eat a truckload of Twinkies. And I think that's what it was. It made somebody hungry. When you're that sick to your stomach and so nauseous, you don't want to eat. You don't want to go out there and consume something. But because of the weed, it's like you're sick to your stomach. You've thrown up a couple times already, and you smoke your little joint, and your stomach's starting to feel a little better, and all of a sudden you're hungry, and you want a Twinkie, and you want a bowl of soup or whatever. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong. Anybody out there is a nurse or a doctor, tell me if I'm right or wrong. It seems like if you put anything into your body that's nutritional in the way of food or whatever, that even if you're going to throw it up later or in a half an hour or an hour, having that in your body is somewhat helpful. You get something from it. You get some nutrition from it, and your body is able to absorb a part of it. But because of this radical radiation dosage, you're going to expel the remainder of it, and of course, then smoke another joint and say, "Oh, well, I'm hungry again." I think it's a vicious circle, and that's one thing I did see people that didn't use something like that, and they were trying the anti-nausea drugs that weren't working. They just didn't feel like eating. They just didn't. They just weren't, because it was just so nasty, being sick like that all the time, that they just didn't want to eat. So anyways, it's just me again. I ramble on and I rant and I rage, and I have a little something to say sometimes. I want to thank Julia Birch for joining us. I want to thank Mark Hughes for joining us. If they're still there or not, I don't know. But thank you for joining us. Please pass this on. Please let me know what you think. I'm serious. I'm really serious. Let me know what you think. Let me know your opinion on what we should do with legalized weed and what Jeff Sessions is doing. Whether you are a supporter of it or not, I'm open-minded. I'm not one of those that are going to call you all sorts of friggin' names. I've been called enough of them for having an opinion. If I don't agree with the main line, or I'm not on the so-called right side of the law, I've been called everything you can imagine. And I don't do that. This is the United States of America. You have a right to speak your mind. You have a right to an opinion. It may not be mine, but at least we can talk about it. We can either try to change each other's opinion, or at least get the information and the knowledge out there that you might stop and think a bit. So God bless y'all. Good night, or good morning. This is Dave from your AM Rant. Have a nice day.